Welcome everybody to episode 2. It's your host Hassan Saad. Welcome to the Hassan Saad Show. Our very first interview, we got Abdullah sitting right here, an old-time friend, way back in high school. Abdullah, what's going on?
Hassan, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, man. Thank you for coming by. This is exciting. We're talking about a lot of great things today, delving into marketing, delving into Dubai and your life. And of course, we got to start off with the school, and that's how we met through high school. Man,
Right.
high school experience, man. How was
Yeah.
that?
High school, honestly, it was a very interesting experience. I wouldn't say I had the best childhood when I was a kid, but just because of the fact that there was a lot of messed up things happening during high school that we used to do as well when we were kids.
Listen, man, there's a lot. I don't want to go too much into the high school that we went to, but I think it traumatized a little bit of everybody going out of high school. It was a
Right.
great experience, though. But going back to high school, how was high school in Abu Dhabi? Like, from someone who's never heard of Abu Dhabi or people living in Dubai, what was high school in Abu Dhabi like for you?
See, high school in Abu Dhabi was a very different experience for me because I've actually I actually went to high school in Abu Dhabi, but at the same time, I've experienced middle school back in Syria for 2 years. And I can tell you, there is a lot of difference happening. And what's very interesting about the schools here is that they don't necessarily prepare you for what you have as an adventure outside as an adult. I can tell you, it was a very interesting experience. Let's talk with the pros. I think it was very diverse. So you would meet a lot of people from different nationalities, which was really great, getting this sort of exposure to different cultures and nationalities. And the diversity that we had, I would say it's like a cast from Hollywood nowadays. So
Multicultural for sure.
Very.
Like we had different people, different nationalities in the same
Right.
place. It was like a melting pot, and everybody was Abu Dhabian. It wasn't like someone from Argentina. Oh, he was an Abu Dhabian. He was someone from Abu Dhabi living, and that's how I felt. Like everybody was from different nationalities, but at the end of the day, it was you're from Abu Dhabi. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. Absolutely. I agree. You get pretty much accustomed, even if you are an outsider coming, especially from the Western hemisphere, you get adapted very easily to the school. And because of that, you can see a lot of interesting, things from different backgrounds, from different cultures. We had the good, the bad, the crazy,
You
with a
definitely
lot
had the
of
crazy.
with a lot of
But-
students as well.
I want to say shout out to anybody from that high school. I don't want to name the high school because if we're gonna go into like talking a little
We're
bit
not
of
going to
smack-
mention any
we're
names.
not-
You can check our CVs, by the way, just in case.
No, I don't have it on my CV. But no, for sure. Shout out to anybody listening from the high school that we went to. I'm sure you know who you are. But back in our day, man, the teachers were random. No, like we had a mall cop that was a math teacher at one point. But now, what do you see? How do you see that change though? Like, how do you see the change from when our generation or our class versus the very end of it,
Right.
and then right now? Because now it's the same high school that we went to. I hear has
A lot of
changed
great things.
a lot of great things for sure.
I do as well. My niece is actually in the school that we went to, and what's really interesting about it is that I think they started to become more aware
Mm-hmm.
and try to start understanding the qualifications that people have,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we're talking about students, teachers. I think also they have to be approved
Yeah.
by the Ministry of Education, and I think they have to go through specific tests and requirements in order to get hired.
100%.
So it's not just a walk in the park anymore. I think the ministry also has evolved from this very simple, just get the teachers, let them teach, to something that is very sophisticated, well established. And I believe they've had help from different resources in order to make that happen. Because the teachers right now are extremely qualified, as far as I know. They're very educated, and at the same time they do provide this sort of sense that you're talking to a professional teacher, in comparison to what we had previously, where the teachers were extremely weird. They were never qualified. They weren't I would say some of them were actually really good,
For
because
sure.
like I'm not generalizing and saying all of them were horrible. In fact, there were a lot of memorable ones, and I do believe you know as well. But yeah, we used to have a lot of math teachers that were coming and going, just like Hogwarts school.
Indeed. No, for sure. I couldn't agree more, man. Like, we did have interesting, interesting teachers, interesting personalities, and to be honest, a lot of them were okay. I mean, and especially towards the end, especially in high school, like grade 12, that's when the majority of teachers were kind of
Well, I never took math in grade 12, so
all right. Well, I
or
mean, my math
or
teacher was
or
was
or
was was
or,
cool. All
or
right. Or
physics
physics.
or biology or chemistry.
Oh man, high school.
Yeah.
But how did that impact your university experience? I mean, you were here a little bit. You went to Turkey a little bit.
So I studied it for a year back in Sharjah. It wasn't really that much of a great deal because the sheer difference between the school culture that we had and the university that we went to was very different. So
Hmm.
you're talking about in high school where it was a sort of a system where girls and boys would mix or talk or chat or socialize. In there, it was extremely segregated and very religious, and it was very scary to a point where I was like, okay, this might be something of an issue that I'm not really ready to face.
Mm.
And you see a lot of people coming from different cities as well, and that's when you start realizing who is the person that is actually coming from the same background as you. I'm talking about people that have different clothing, different sort of attitude or conversations, and then you would have these all of these other different type of personalities as well that coming from different emirates as well. I'm not going to name them, but there were a lot of weird things or sights to see.
I'm sure, man. But like segregation is also it's a topic, man. Like it's crazy that a lot of people you talk to back home don't know the concept of segregated schools and
Right.
segregated, not even universities, and that to them is super weird. But it's so normalized here
It's
to
an
have
alien conversation. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. Like our high schools, some of the high schools were segregated. Our school that we went to was not segregated, thankfully, but the first school I went to was segregated. So I went to before the high school experience. So I think up to elementary, it was segregated. It was just a boys' school. It's a jungle, man. Once you have boys all in and no just boys, it becomes a jungle.
Yeah, it's a testosterone
Yeah,
overdose.
it is. Everybody's challenging each other. It's crazy, and that's what Jordan Peterson was saying, that it's when it's male and male conflict, it's usually physical, but if it's female female, it's more verbal, and you can see it when you go into an all segregated school. It's like Lord of the Flies all
Yeah,
over
no,
again.
it's a hierarchy that
Mm.
a lot of people have to work with. So you got I don't believe in the concept of alpha male, but you would see a lot of people challenging or kind of challenging whoever is around them as
Mhm.
students and saying like, "Oh, I'm the strongest guy" or "I'm the smartest dude." And this sort of thing is just ridiculous because
Mhm.
you start looking and reflecting back on these things and you're like, "Gosh, I was so stupid back then," or "I was so childish."
Oh yeah.
And to be honest, I think the concept of segregation falls more heavily on the Middle East. So we're
Mhm.
talking about majority of the Gulf countries. Some schools back in Syria. I think a lot of the schools back in Syria, especially the governmental ones in Jordan as well, you have a lot of these sort of different segregation methods that some countries take into account, heavily focusing on the middle on the GCC though, on the Gulf countries. But in other places, you would see that no, it's fine. A lot of people mix, a lot of schools mix. There is a lot of sort of socializing between the opposite sex, which is something that is very good because you carry it on with you also on the professional level.
Mm.
Because imagine this: you're sitting at work, you're having you had throughout your whole childhood just male conversations with specific male friends or guys, and then eventually you get to meet one of the girls because of the business. Business is not segregated, it's
Mhm.
mixed, and eventually you just get flustered, you don't know what to say because you're like, this is the first time a person has ever talked to me.
Right.
And when I see it is the problem that a lot of these, I would say that these things have, as well as when you develop, is the fact that once you talk to a girl or the girl talks to you, if it's even on a professional level, you start thinking that the girl likes you.
Not only that, you start to put them on a pedestal.
Right.
And I'm not saying we should, you can take this conversation and mold it however you want. But what I'm trying to say is that you start to see women as this whole enigma. You don't know how to talk to them. You start to idolize, not idolize, but you put them into another little pedestal. Yeah, it
Right.
is a pedestal, and you don't know how to communicate with them. And in your professional, in the professional work or in the professional environment, you need to network, especially the type of businesses that we're in.
It is hard, yeah.
It's very difficult, and there's a lot of disadvantages. But do you suppose, is there any advantages to having that segregated school system, especially at a young age?
To be honest, at this point or day and age, I think it's actually. I mean, it's a very difficult question to answer, but at this day and age, it's very difficult to say that it's towards the positives. It's more likely towards negative. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you have all all professional workplace and spaces. They're all mixed. They're all you have different people from different backgrounds coming and talking, and the quicker you get exposed to these things, the easier you are to adapt to these sort of environments.
Mm,
I mean, I do truly believe that it also gives you an advantage in comparison to in getting jobs as well. When you're applying to a job that has a specific culture or a
mhm.
workaround, it's very easy for you to adapt or adopt this sort of work culture in comparison to someone who has never talked to girls.
Right.
So
And
so
vice versa. I'm not just saying that,
exactly.
vice versa for sure. But at the same time, it's culture. Sometimes it is culture, especially in the Arab world, and you have to respect the idea behind it or the culture behind it. Let's ask, what do you guys think? Hit us up in the comments. What is there any advantages to it? Let us know. But yeah, I mean, I think, how do you think that kind of or how did that, getting into that segregated, going out of segregation and going into Turkey and having your university experience there, how did that feel to you? And for those, explaining it for those who've never been to Turkey or have just visited, how
Right.
was living the university life in Turkey
Oh
as
man,
compared to leaving segregated university, right? Which is crazy.
it's actually very different, and I actually moved back in 2012 to 2013, and what was very interesting about it was that first of all, Turkey back then economically was actually in a very good spot or in a good place, and it was in a well established spot globally, I would say. So there was a lot of traction towards international students coming and studying there. The environment is welcoming. You would see a lot of Turkish people actually being more and more happy to have international students. There is one problem though, that a lot of them don't speak English. So there is always this sort of a language barrier that is there. Regardless of the university that you go to, the majority of them actually do presume or do announce that they do speak English, but the truth is very much far from that. And I actually struggled firsthand when I was there first year. A lot of the students that I was with, they didn't speak much of English, and so eventually, what had to happen was to learn the language itself and try to learn, especially the bad words at first, because you don't want someone telling you a swear word and you don't understand what he's saying.
True.
So you get adapted to it very quickly. They pretty much help you in integrating you into their culture if you are open to that sort of
Right.
idea, because Turkish people are quite nationalistic, and they have this sort of nationalism programmed into them
Mhm.
ever since they were young. And I'm talking about this firsthand because I actually also taught schools in Turkey.
Right. Right.
And what
Yeah.
was very interesting is that a lot of them do help. They're very helpful. They're very kind. But whatever I had learned in the UAE was very much the opposite of what was preparing me for Turkey.
Mhm.
So a lot of the preparations or a lot of the things that I had to learn from scratch, especially when I was in Turkey. I'm talking about very simple things as chores to fixing laundry and stuff. And mind you, this in Abu Dhabi, when you're raised, a lot of the stuff are pretty much prepared for you.
Oh yeah.
You're pretty much living in a, I would say, in a sort of a bubble where you're protected. Everything is safe. Everything is nice, and people don't. I would say people are not here willing to screw you over, especially when you're a kid. Everything is pretty much honest. Everyone speaks English. But the minute you move out of this whole bubble and you go to another environment where it's pretty much the real raw life that you sort of experience, that's when a lot of things come into place and you're like, oh my god, I'm not actually prepared for this.
Mhm.
So I would thank a lot of the guys that actually helped me out in learning this sort of experience, especially with my daily chores, because back home, we were very pampered. We had people that were helping us out, our mothers, the maids, all of these people, they were there giving us or providing us with this sort of a comfort. that is lacking in Turkey.
We were definitely very sheltered,
We were very
very
sheltered,
sheltered indeed here.
extremely.
And once you leave, it hits you right across the face. I mean, going to Canada, I guess you don't feel the language barrier, obviously, because
Yeah,
but you do, like you said, that the chores, the going to the bank for the first time, paying your bills for the first time,
adult
and
stuff.
all the adult stuff that you have to do, and you're suddenly like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah,
And that's why I feel like a lot of people don't make it that far, if especially first year, and then they tend to come back
right.
because of that. It's either you sink or swim, and some people sink and some people swim. It is what it is.
It's yeah, it is. It is difficult.
All right, we just have to pause a little bit just because the camera kind of paused with us, and now I have the cats all over the place. As you see, that's the first one right there. That's Mochi, but they're gonna cause trouble. Anyways, as what we were saying, we're talking about how people kind of didn't make it throughout the first year, especially in new cultures. And I get it, honestly. You have to unlearn what you know and then relearn from scratch, and just become an adult while your family's trusting you halfway across the world, saying, okay, yeah, my son's there. I hope my son or daughter doesn't screw up or doesn't mess up. Um, yeah, interesting stuff. I think it was similar experience, and then going to China was also
Yeah,
unlearning everything and relearning again and
right,
learning their culture. And like what you were saying, once you open up to their culture, they start to want to help you. But if you approach them as a Western or as English, and you just want to talk English, they won't respect it as much as if you're trying to learn their language, if you're trying
right.
to break through to them. And I don't know who said it was, if you want to speak to someone, or if you really want someone to understand, speak their language, and you know it'll just become poetry between you guys. But yeah, nice, man. Now you're here.
Yeah.
You're in Dubai. How is that growing up in Abu Dhabi, and now you're in Dubai? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So there is a huge difference between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and I'm talking about uh, in the sense of pacing. I think Dubai is more quick. It's more versatile, and at the same time, everything has to be with a snap of a fingers. It's very convenient for you to live there in comparison to Abu Dhabi, where it's more of a quiet life, families, where you feel like you would live here when you want to retire. Shout out to anyone from Abu Dhabi, anyways. But Dubai is different. there are there is only one major highway that you just drive on nonstop, and if you miss one exit, that's plus 20 minutes in your life just gone wasted just trying to find the way back. I think a lot of the money, a lot of the business is actually based out in Dubai, and I'm talking about private sectors. I'm not mentioning anything governmental. It's different. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I can say. It's very different.
Honestly, I can't agree more with, especially with the highway stuff. Anybody that's been to Dubai and trying to get somewhere, especially if you're from Abu Dhabi, you're gonna get lost, and you know
Yeah.
exactly what just Abdullah just said. But living there and working there, how is how is the work life? So I know you said there's a lot of private companies or startups, and the private industry is booming.
Yeah.
How is that affecting the cost of living in Dubai? Because honestly, I feel Abu Dhabi is cheaper than Dubai. Or sorry,
Vice
mixed.
versa.
I vice versa. I feel Dubai is cheaper than Abu Dhabi, but a lot of people living there say no.
I think it's pretty much the same. I think there are a couple of things where Abu Dhabi is more cheaper than Dubai.
Mhm.
I would say specifically with gas and petrol. If you want to fill up your car, for example, so ADNOC stations have better offers, better pricing when it comes to it in comparison to Enox. That I would say that is something that I always love about Abu Dhabi. The gas stations are
Hmm.
just phenomenal. You're looking at world class tier one gas
That is
stations.
true.
You like to spend more time at the gas stations than anywhere else, and there is a proof of that in Abu Dhabi. I think when it comes to food, entertainment, I think they're pretty much the same. So those sort of pricings are different. Those are pretty much matched.
I kind of want to disagree with you there,
Why?
because over there, I feel like there are so many options and prices are very competitive. Versus here, you can name a handful of restaurants. There are a lot of restaurants here, but you're going to the same places, the same thing, it's the same scene, and they can charge. They can charge because they know there's no better alternative. For example, if you want to go eat steak, there's a handful of restaurants that serve steak versus in Dubai, where there's a ton of places where you can go to sushi. Here, handful of places. Dubai, tons of places to eat sushi.
How much is the pricing for sushi though?
For example, here, all you can eat sushi, 150 dirhams. Let's see, in dollars, if you want to compare that to
For
Canadian dollars,
sushi?
150 divided by, let's say, 2.6 or 2.7, let's say 2.7. $55. Yes, it's very expensive here. $55 for all you can eat sushi.
But that's pretty much the same in Dubai as
Is
well.
it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I
Like,
see all these pop up places 99, 100,
I mean,
100.
I mean
Fuck.
now see what's interesting about this is that once many restaurants start opening, they start categorizing themselves as a tier one based on the quality and
That makes
services
sense.
that are there. So there is definitely tier three sushi where it's very cheap. It's affordable. You could go out with 60 70 dirhams for a 24-piece set menu. And then you have the 150, and then you have the 500 and 600 dirham
For
ones.
sure. But
So
so there's
it's
what I'm saying. I guess what you're saying is right too. I guess what I was trying to say was there's a lot more options for tier three restaurants versus
rather, yes.
tier three restaurants here. That's why I feel like you can go cheap if you want to go cheap, and you know it's Dubai. You want to go expensive, you can go expensive.
No, true. You can even go back to the point where I think since it's a touristic hub, a lot of people that come from outside they do get exposed to the whole lifestyle of what Dubai what has to offer. So a lot of them do kind of push the prices, increase them because of the market
Hmm.
demand, and sometimes when there is not many clients or not many customers that are coming into restaurants, that kind the prices kind of they start providing with you with offers where they're like buy one get one, as entertainment always provides for Abu Dhabi or Dubai. But yeah, no, definitely Dubai has more options. I do agree, but that's because of the fact that Dubai is more of a touristic hub in comparison to Abu Dhabi.
Oh, yeah, I think that that's also changing a little bit. They're trying to bring the tourists here as well. There has been a lot of development in Abu Dhabi, and there's Mochi. Get out of here, Mochi. Um, Comparing to Turkey, because you were recently in Turkey,
Right.
right? And with the inflation happening, and let's say hi to the camera first. With the inflation that's happening, how expensive is Turkey right now compared to Dubai?
Oh, it's cheap.
Still cheap.
It is cheap because look, there has been a lot of events that have been happening in Turkey, and I'm speaking this from a first-hand experience where I've noticed the Turkish lira going from one Turkish lira equals to two dirhams, which was back in 2012 to now, which is one dirham equals to five Turkish lira. So you can say that the economy is actually waning. There has been a bit of a struggle, especially when it came to a lot of events that were happening. COVID, I would say ISIS at the door, a lot of other stuff that happened as well with the inclusion of economic problems, internal terrorist attacks that were happening between malls, protests. A lot of things and a lot of factors play into why the economy has been acting out this way.
The way it is right now, yeah,
Right.
for sure. Let's not get into politics, but no, I get it for sure. I think everybody else does too. But yeah, let's actually delve into what you do, man. If you
Sure.
want to explain it to everybody. So, what industry are you in? First of all, what industry are you in? What do you do for someone in just not doesn't know anything about what you do? How do you explain it? How do you network with people? What do you tell them? How do you introduce yourself?
So I introduce myself as a. So I work in the media industry. So I basically have relationships closer to publishers and media buying in comparison to others. My actual background is engineering. So I'm an energy system engineer where I practically was, learning more about solar panels, gas systems, nuclear power reactors in order for me to become an engineer. But that was such a niche. It wasn't niche, I would say, but more of a something that my parents wanted, and that's another topic to talk about. But it's something that my parents wanted, and I was just kind of like, you know what, I'll just study it because it's trending, it's in the market, it's happening right now. But the more I delve into it, the more I saw it as something that I'm not interested in, and so I moved from that to sales, to marketing, and eventually to what I do right now, which is media. So to put it in a nutshell, I basically provide technological solutions to publishers' websites in order for them to monetize.
Right on, right on, right on.
So we work with a lot of the local publishers that are here, as well as regional, international as well, and it's great. I love this job so much. It's one of the things that I've actually found my true calling, and I do see myself working in this industry for quite some time, even as a side hustle.
Nice. So you do. So you went from engineering and that technical background into media, into
Right.
sales, into. And a lot of people might say, "Well, you're an engineer. Engineers don't know how to sell, or engineers don't have that mentality with them." What do you tell them? What do you tell people that tell you, "How are you a salesperson if you started off as an engineer?"
See, a lot of companies, especially nowadays, when it comes to the hiring process, they do tend to hire engineers more likely than people who study business in some aspects, of course, not in all of them. And the reason why is because, first of all, they always like the analytical thinking. So a lot of the interviews that you get into, especially when it comes to sales or when it comes to operations or when it comes to technical management or technical support, they always try to focus on how you think. So what is the process of thinking that you have, and how can you translate it into everyday problems that they face as a company? And that's where your advantage comes in comparison to other people who've studied maybe business management. I'm not like nothing against them, of course, but but yeah, I think that's an advantage that a lot of people don't see. And when it comes to engineers, especially when the IT or the technical support that we have, a lot of them also come from engineering backgrounds. So they kind of see you more as someone that they can relate to
Mhm.
than to someone who doesn't have this sort of a technical openness to learn about things specifically.
Having jumped from one area to another, what would you tell someone who, or tell people that are unhappy with their current job or current place, or maybe even engineers who are not happy being in the engineering field and want to dive into other areas? How did you start, or what can you tell them to help them out in that area?
See, when it comes to career prospects and future and what the person likes, eventually it falls off to the individual itself. And what I say is look for it, try to find your thing. If it's even if it's something on the side, if you're into networking, if you're into, let's say, building relationships with people, a lot of jobs actually provide this sort of solution. So if you're in engineering, let's say, and you're working as a civil engineer, where you go on site and you work with workers firsthand, or you do work with different people, but you want to go more into, let's say, relationships, that could actually be that could also be explored when you start networking with other engineers around. There's a lot of cases or a lot of different points where you can find your own thing, your calling, but it comes also with the pricing of or risking leaving the job that you have. And I'm not saying do it, of course, don't jump this sort of leap of faith, but in time you start finding out what you like and what you want to do. And I think that's the biggest advantage of growing up or being raised in a place where you kind of do something that a lot of people push you or tend to push you to do, in
Mhm.
comparison to when you finally start finding something throughout your life and saying, you know what, this is something that I like and I want to stick with it.
You did mention networking, and you did mention relationship building.
Yes.
How do you do that? What are your secrets? How do you prepare yourself to network or going into a networking event?
See what helped a lot, especially with me, was, and as you mentioned, a lot of engineers are not actually good at sales. I do tend to disagree on that. The reason is because um, you get to start to learn a lot of things about pitching and selling something to a client. And the reason why I disagree is because engineers, especially when you're a sales engineer, you kind of have a lot of advantages of providing technical information to the client. So they're more inclined on trusting you in comparison to someone who's just selling a product that they don't know what they're talking about.
I can respect that.
And eventually, when they're like, okay, so I'll give you an example. So client would like to make a placement for a specific solar panels on the roof, and this is something that we had my colleagues had conversations with different clients. So one of the guys that wasn't an engineer came out and was a bit confused about how to do it. And all it required was a sales engineer guy to step in, kind of give him the technical support, provide him with all of the details and the information to eventually close the sale.
100%.
And that builds a trust, because the more you know, the more knowledge you know about a specific product, the easier it is to pitch it, and the more confidence you have when selling it. And a lot of terms come with, pitching, selling, and that in itself, when people start understanding or looking at you as someone who understands what they're talking about, knows what you're doing, like what you're doing, because a lot of people also see that starts building trust and relationships and networking with different clients. And eventually, on the long term, even if you move jobs or even if you go from one place to another, a lot of the things that put goes back into networking is actually putting the effort of, going out with this client, taking them out for lunch. I think that sending them gifts when it's or sending them sort of a thing that they could remember you by, whether they're sick or whether they're not feeling well or one of their close relatives have passed away, or even some sort of an anniversary or birthday or wedding even. A lot of these small gestures do indicate good relationships and terms with them, with the people or the clients that you would have, to eventually build a very strong bond between you and them.
I agree.
And
I
if
agree.
and one last note, if you're not willing to invest this sort of relationships, then I would suggest you not to go for it.
I totally agree, and I can respect that. One thing, just watch out, guys, with regards to gifts. Just make sure company policy is taken into
Right.
account.
Right.
I
No,
don't
of
want to get
course.
anybody in trouble.
Of course.
But no, I can definitely respect that. AI, man, it's a crazy topic. We can sit here for days and days on end. I know you have to leave soon. But where do you see AI and infotech and biotech taking, especially media? And there's a lot of misconception about AI. All right, we're back. First of all, to anybody still listening, thank you. There's a lot of support from everybody on Instagram, on YouTube comments, and all that. Uh, Really, I appreciate it a lot. I've been putting effort into this, and really, it's been helpful. So thank you very much. Also, shout out to Noan for supporting me with the intro. That stuff was just amazing, man. Honestly. So, yeah, shout out to Noan. Thank you for those who are still listening. Let's continue. The question at hand was so information technology, biotechnology. A lot of people are scared of that. When I say AI or when I say Chat GPT,
Yeah.
people think it's all conspiracy and Illuminati and what's the world going to take us to. But
Right.
how do you see that integrating into media? Where do you see media taking such areas and going to? What's the trajectory like?
See. It's a very interesting topic. I think it's a quite a I would say it's a double edged sword conversation that you would have, because you can use AI for so many things, especially when it comes to research development. A lot of breakthroughs could also would happen thanks to AI, but at the same time, it could also be used to a lot of stuff. So as we can see right now, a lot of students are actually using AI or content generation that is coming out, that you start not understanding if it's actually coming from genuine human being or actually from artificial intelligence or AI itself. And at one point, ChatGPT actually went on a Google interview, and they've actually received an offer with an 180K salary
Crazy. I mean, I'm not
for a
surprised.
tier 3 engineer. And you can read about it, because it's
Mhm.
actually pretty crazy. What's also interesting about it is that you as an entrepreneur, or you as a person who would like to start something, whether it's content related or user generated catchy words or phrases, AI could actually help you with that. So content that you thought that you could never write about a specific thing that could intrigue or capture the audience, now you could do it thanks to AI. In media itself, there is a lot of automations that is happening right now, and I do see AI kind of being pushed into it. But at the end of the day, when it comes to client relations and client management, a lot of it has to come also from human to human interface. I'm not saying that AI would replace us as a media as a person who works in the media, but I do see it more and more being integrated into our day to day lives. especially when it comes to sort of automations with campaign generations or creating these sort of campaigns. Because if you go right now and you set up a campaign with Google, a lot of the things that you have there when setting up the campaign is actually quite automated, and it actually tells the AI to use specific algorithms in order to develop and kind of push the campaigns to serve better. And when it comes to speaking with clients, they come back to you and they're like, okay, the campaign is optimized, so what do we do now? And eventually you're like, just let the AI or the algorithm take some time in order for it to optimize and to increase or enhance the efficiency of using the money wisely.
Mhm.
But again, it's a sort of a wait and see. And I think it's quite futuristic. It's here, it's now. I've also had different conversations with ChatGPT. It's very interesting. I do recommend people to actually look and dive into it more and more, because
It's the future.
it
It's the
is.
future.
It
It's
is.
happening now. We are living in an era of history, and you're right. I couldn't agree with you more. It's either you take it, you delve into it, and you kind of, I don't want to say master it, but you're used to it. So when the future does come about, and a really good book to kind of look into it is Yuval Noah Harari's 21 Lessons for the 21st Century,
Right.
and he talks about there's three different topics or debates that he talks about when it comes to AI and taking over jobs. So it's either AI is going to create new jobs to over or to match the ones being lost, or it's going to, people are just going to be irrelevant and just data cows. So it's either you get with it and you keep up with the trend, or you're going to be irrelevant or lost in translation, because honestly,
Right.
it's just a whole new language. There's a really good podcast, Joe Rogan, and it's fairly new. Lex Fridman, and they talk about, maybe I'm saying his last name wrong, but they talk about ChatGPT and AI and what's to
Right.
come, and they themselves don't know how this is happening. How ChatGPT is actually, they know the coding, but they don't know how it makes sense, or the language it processes. They don't know how it's being done, and it's a mystery to them as well. So
See,
check it out. Yeah.
see. I think just to add to your point here, Hassan. I think what a lot of people are scared of is the unknown, and how ChatGPT or AI could actually evolve
Hmm.
into a technology that they wouldn't know. Because at some point, even I think it was Google or Facebook engineers where they developed two AIs and they started speaking in a language where the data engineers themselves didn't know what they were talking about. And this was back in 2015, till eventually they had to close it down and shut down the project because of how this AI was actually becoming out of control. And this is what a lot of people are scared of, because AI is unpredictable. We don't know what's the, I would say, the threshold of its capabilities and how it would react or how it would become. And I think that's where a lot of people have their issues and concern be placed. And I don't blame them, but it's all about finding out. And change is going to happen at a quicker pace. And I think 10 years or 15 years down the line, you're going to see a lot of researches and breakthrough happening at a pace that we have never seen before, especially when we're talking about with the development of vaccines as a prime example, where it took us 30 years back then when we were able to develop a sort of a vaccine for polio or for malaria. But right now it takes us less than a year to actually evolve it and develop into something that was capable of fighting COVID. So you can see the advancement of research and AI and artificial intelligence taking place or taking role into helping human beings become or evolving into much more futuristic, adaptive species.
Yep. Yep. Couldn't
So
agree
yeah.
more.
So yeah.
Awesome, man.
Right.
I know you have to leave soon. I don't want to take too much of your time.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to tell the folks listening? Anything you want to tell them about Dubai? Come to Dubai, Dubai life. Anything
Dubai
you want? Any
life,
message?
my
Anything to the
dream.
youth? Your dream, your aspiration. Are you trying to? Is there something you want to promote? Anything along those lines? You know how I'm sponsored by.
You're gonna have to cut that one
For
out.
my maybe you cut that one out, but just for my 1.5 followers,
1.5, and make them two, because I will.
two
So.
followers. Anything you want to say?
No, I think I'm good for now. just the future is now, old man.
And future is now.
So
Future is, where is that from? I
it's
always
from
say
Malcolm in the Middle.
Malcolm in the
When
future
he
is
talks
now.
to his
That's
dad,
true.
when Stewie talks to his dad, he's like, "The future is now, old man."
That is hilarious. Abdullah, it's a pleasure to have
Yeah,
you.
you too, Hassan. Thank
Honestly,
you so much for having me over,
of
man.
course, of course. Episode 2 with Abdullah, the one and only. And we'll catch you guys on episode 3. Wait and find out. All right, get
See
out
you
of here.
guys. Good night. Bye bye.